What is happening inside our brain when we see a viral video? My team and I asked ourselves this question thousands of times on our way to generating 3 billion views for some of the most boring product imaginable. And we have developed countless theories and principles about content that I've covered all across this channel. But we still had a deep desire to actually understand what actually happens inside the brain at the neurological level, and if we could use it to predict whether a video would go viral or not. So recently I went and found the answer. Not from any marketing blogs or like a guru advice, from actual neuroscience lab. And what I found actually kind of blew my mind. It turns out that scientists can now literally scan your brain while you watch a video and know why you like it, what you didn't like, and how you felt the entire time. They can see which part of your brain lights up when you're about to share something to your friend, when you're about to scroll, and when you're hooked so deeply that your critical thinking shut off completely. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the 5 things that neuroscience has recently proven about why certain videos break the internet while others get completely ignored. And more importantly, I'm going to show you how to use each one to make your content perform better starting today. Number 1, science can now predict if your video will go viral before you post it. And it's not by looking at your content, it's by looking at your brain. In 2020, Stanford Neuroscience Lab ran a study that changed how I think about content forever. They put 36 people inside brain scanners, showed them a series of videos, and then tracked how those same videos perform on the internet. Here's what they found. When they asked participants whether they liked the video or not, or thought it would be popular, those answers were basically useless for predicting what would actually go viral. People are terrible at knowing what they will engage with, but when the researcher looked at the brain scans instead, specifically the area linked to reward anticipation and the emotional processing, they could accurately forecast which videos would blow up online. The brain knew before the person did. And this is not just one study anymore. Meta recently released something called Tribe V2, which is essentially a digital twin of the human brain. They trained it over 700 volunteers and more than 1,000 hours of brain scan data from people watching videos, listening to podcasts, reading text. The model can now simulate how a human brain would respond to almost any piece of content at a resolution 70 times higher than anything before it. Think about what that means. We are entering an era where you could theoretically test thousands of variants of a hook, an edit, or a soundtrack and predict which one will trigger the strongest brain response before you even post it. The gap between what people say they want and what their brain actually responds to is becoming measurable. And that gap is massive. This is why I never trust feedback from my clients when testing content. I do not care if someone say they like your video. I care if their thumb stops scrolling, because your conscious brain and your scrolling brain are 2 completely different systems. When I was making content for Bulldog, we did not run a focus group or ask people what kind of ramen content they wanted. We watched what was already stopping thumbs in the food space and put Bulldog inside those same formats. 900 million views later, that approach has been validated by an actual neuroscience labs at Stanford. 2, dopamine is not your reward, it is your trap. Why the first 2 seconds of your video are a neurochemical event? People think the dopamine is like the chemical that makes you feel good. That is wrong. Dopamine is actually the chemical of anticipation. Your brain releases dopamines not when you get the reward, but when you expect one might be coming. That distinction changed everything about how you should think about content. Social media platforms are designed around this. TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, they all use what behavioral scientists call variable reward schedules. It is the same mechanism that makes slot machine addictive. You never know if the next video will be amazing or forgettable, so your brain stays in this constant state of anticipation. Dopamine keeps firing because the reward is unpredictable. Research has even shown that TikTok algorithm caused the dopamine to spike specifically when the type of content shifts, like when a funny video is followed by something emotional. Your brain cannot settle into a pattern, so stay chemically alert. Now, here's where this becomes useful for you as a creator. Your hook is not just a copywriting exercise, it is a neurochemical event. When your first 2 seconds create a sense of something interesting is about to happen, you are triggering a dopamine spike in the viewer's brain. Their body is now chemically invested in watching the rest of your video. But if you open the video by delivering the answers or showing the product, there is no anticipation. The dopamine never fires, and without that chemical pull, the viewers scroll, and they don't even know why. This is exactly why I open every video with an unanswered question, an unexpected visuals, or a statement that does not fully make sense. With Bulldog, our best performing hooks never start with "here's a spicy ramen challenge." They start with something that makes the viewer go, "Wait, what is about to happen?" That gap between not knowing and wanting to know more is where the dopamine lives. When I shoot the video for Stan, the all-in-one creator platform, we open with the CEO walking through a clearly expensive office space. The viewer's brain immediately goes, "Wait, what is this place? How much does this cost? Who is this person? What do they do to be able to afford this?" That is almost 3 to 4 dopamine triggers before a single word about the product, and that's why we got millions of views on the first video, not because the product was exciting, because the first 2 seconds were a dopamine trap. 3. Viral content makes every brain fire the same way. The hidden pattern behind videos that millions of people can't stop watching. There's a concept in neuroscience called inter-subject synchrony. Researchers put multiple people in a brain scanners and show them the same video. Then they compare how similar each person's brain's activity is to everyone else. When a video is highly engaging, something remarkable happens. All the brains start firing in an almost identical pattern. The visual processing, the emotional centers, and the attention networks all sync up across completely different people. But when the content is boring and confusing, every brain does something different. There is no synchrony. Each person's mind wanders off in its own direction. This is the neuroscience behind why proven formats outperform original ideas. And I'm mentioning this because a few comments on the previous video didn't like the fact that I told everyone to copy what's already working. You see, a reaction video or a challenge or try this food format has been tested on millions of brains already. The structure itself creates synchronies because every viewer brains already know what to expect and when to expect it. Their attention locks in at the same moment. Their emotional response fire at the same beat. When I took the "Hey chef, can you make me something with this format" and apply it to Bodak's content, I was not just copying the trend. I was using a format that had already been neurologically validated by millions of viewers. Their brain were pre-wired to sync up with that structure, and that's why we hit 4 million views on the video. The point is, original content is risky because you're asking millions of different brains to all respond the same way to something they have never seen before. The odds are against you. Proven formats stack the odds in your favor because the synchrony already exists. You are not creating it. You are not being lazy by copying what's already works. You are being neurologically strategic. 4. Your brain already decides to share the content before you consciously choose to. What an MRI scan reveals about why people actually hit the share button. In my last video, I talked about how people share content that makes them look good. That is true, but the neuroscience behind it goes even deeper than that. Researchers at the University of Pennsylvania ran a massive study, 16 separate brain scanning experience with 572 people, looking at what happens in the brain when someone encounters a message that they're about to share. They found that 2 specific brain networks consistently predict whether someone will pass something along. The first is the reward system, the same areas that lights up when you anticipate something pleasurable. The second is what neuroscientists call the mentalizing network, the part of your brains that think about other people's thought and reaction. In other words, before you consciously decide to share a video, your brain already running 2 simultaneous calculations. 1, does this feel rewarding to me? And 2, how would this land with the people that I share with? Both systems have to fire for sharing to happen, which is why purely informational content rarely gets shared. It might activate the reward system, sure, that is interesting, but if there's no social layers, it does not make the sharer feels like they're bringing something valuable to their group. The second system never fires. You need both. Every time I create content now, I'm designing for both triggers. Does this feel rewarding on its own? And does sharing it say something about the person who sent it? That is the difference between a video that gets watched and a video that travels. 5. Your viewer brains is on a 47-second clock. What happened neurologically when attentions die and how to reset it? Researcher Gloria Mark at UC Irvine has been studying attention span for the last 2 decades. Her data show that the average attention span of any screen has dropped to just 47 seconds, down from 2.5 minutes in 2004. And that is for screens in general. For short-form content, where viewers has been trained to expect something new every few seconds, the threshold is even lower. As one of the commenters on my previous video pointed out, the fact is our attention spans are absolutely fried, as I mentioned in my previous video as well. But here's what most people get wrong about this. Your attention span did not shrink because you got dumber. It shrank because your brains get more efficient. Your brain is constantly doing a cost-benefit analysis on everything it pays attention to. If the current input is still delivering new information, the brain stay engaged. The moment the input becomes predictable or repetitive, your brain reallocates its energy somewhere else. This is basically how the brain optimizes itself. Research on social media use showed that extended scrolling actually changes your brainwave pattern. People who scroll for more than 2 hours a day show a significant drops in prefrontal impulse control, meaning the longer someone has been on the app, the faster they scroll, the less patience they have for your content. This literally means your competition isn't other creators anymore. You are competing with the neurological state that constant scrolling has to put your viewer into. This is why every millisecond of your video has to earn its place. When we edit content, I'm not thinking about what looks good, I'm thinking about the viewer's brain. Is this frame giving them something new? If not, cut it. Is there a pause that lets their attention drift? Close it. Are the captions keeping the brain active while the audio keeps their listening brains engaged? This is the neurological strategy I personally use to keep the viewer's brain deeply stimulated so that it never gets a chance to wander. Pull up a timeline of a Bodak video that hits 2.2 million views once. Every single clip was so short, barely trimmed, each one was delivering a new information. The editing itself was engineered to keep resetting that 47-second clock that researcher Gloria Mark mentioned. Every cut was a micro macro reset that told the brain something new is coming, stay. The bigger picture, so all this boiled down to just one thing. The difference between content that gets 200 views and content that gets 2 million views is not creativity. It's not production quality or luck. It is whether you're working with the brain or against it. And most brands are working against it without even realizing. Your viewer's brain is running on dopamine anticipation, not rational choice. It syncs up with format it already recognized. It makes sharing decisions before the person is even aware of them. And it is running on that clock that gets shorter every single year. Every single technique I use in my agency, format stealing, the open loop hooks, the credential shortcut, the editing pace, all of it works because it aligned with how the brain actually operates. I did not learn all of these from a neuroscience textbook. I learned it by making thousands of videos and watching what happened. And it's kind of insane to think that a little human brain research just confirmed everything we've been doing is the only way to make content go viral. So if you're a content creator looking to make your next video go viral, I hope this info helped you out. If you haven't already, do watch the previous video I made about human psychology and how understanding it made me get over 3 billion views from my client. I'll link the video right here. Thanks for watching, and let me know in the comments if you got any questions. I might make a video about it next.